here for another great Wisdom and Knowledge 5 podcast episode. Well, this week I want to talk about corporations because one great way to stand against, you know, things that you don't like, things that are going on, you know, things that you don't stand for is to, stand against, boycott, you name it, corporations. Corporations are always out looking for their own best interest, not what the people want. So one of the great ways to, take a stand is to support smaller, companies, to support those that do line up with, what you stand for. Whether it be, in my case, I'm big into eating healthy foods and such. So, and standing for freedom, standing for human rights. But when it comes to that, a big key aspect that so many people overlook is standing against corporations. And it's so easy to do because when we go out, when we go to the supermarket, when we go places, Target, you name it, we have a choice what companies to support, what to, buy, and we can, choose companies that line up with what, you know, we stand for, what we support. And it's so great. And I want to, just go through some examples today of, the way corporations are. If anyone's ever worked for a corporation, they know how they're run, they know, and I'm not saying that, you know, all corporations are bad. I'm just giving you examples from major corporations and what is what these corporations are all about. So, we have a choice. We can, choose who to support and what companies to buy from. And it's as simple as that. So let's get into it. I want to share some articles with you, and I'm going to start out by sharing this one right here. Hershey's parts ways with unvaccinated workers. And this was back in February 2022. But what happened is they mandated the COVID-19 vaccine for its workers. So they forced their workers to be, back to be jabbed or no jab, no job, basically. So the Hershey's company has parted ways with some salaried workers who didn't comply with the company's COVID-19 vaccine mandate. ABC 27 News reported a small number of individuals who did not get vaccinated were separated from the company, Hershey said in a release, and that it was done to reduce the coronavirus spread. Okay, Hershey's announced the COVID-19 vaccine mandate for salary employees in August 2021. Since then, the company sponsored vaccination clinics and allowed employees to seek exemptions, uh, which they in turn denied. Anyways, I remember when this was going on because me, and my friends, we actually called Hershey's and said, hey, we're not going to buy Hershey's anymore. We grew up on Hershey's. We don't support what you're doing, mandating, the COVID-19 vaccine. And see that's another way, you know, where you can hit them is let them know. And we weren't the only ones that called, the toll-free customer hotline for Hershey's and said that. There was a mass amount of people in support of this, and there's a mass amount of people like myself who, as not bought Hershey's anymore, stood against this company. Okay, you're gonna, put your, foot where your mouth is and actually do something, actually be proactive. And that's what I did during this. And then there's another article here on it. And More fired employees sue Hershey's company over vaccine mandate lawsuit, and I believe that this is still going on. That they haven't resolved all of them, in the courts. Three former employees of the Hershey company sued the company last week for its COVID-19 vaccine mandate, resulting in them getting fired. And this is from August 29th, 2023. So, three Benjamin Stoffel, Cheryl Malavik, and Jennifer Gerdock are suing the company for religious discrimination on the basis that the company's policy did not accommodate their religious beliefs against receiving COVID-19 vaccination, according to the joint lawsuit filed by Andrea Shaw. Thomas Seltzner, a former senior manager in the Hershey Company, is also suing the Hershey Company in federal court on the grounds that he was terminated due to his religious beliefs. So it's not just lower level, this is a senior manager in the Hershey Company who went after him. In the latest lawsuit, all three were corporate employees who worked remotely throughout the pandemic and filed religious exemptions to the company's vaccination mandate, which was issued in fall of 2021. Each exemption was denied because the company said accommodating their religious beliefs would create an undue hardship, the lawsuit said. The Hershey Company designated the departures of Gerdock and Stoffel as voluntary resignation or resignation without good cause, which prevented them from collecting retirement benefits, a bonus for the previous year, and unemployment compensation, the lawsuit said. The company also offered all three money if they waived all legal claims, but did not accept it. The lawsuit did not say how much the company offered them. The Hershey Company vaccine mandate applied to corporate employees, but did not extend to retail and manufacturing employees, nor employees of Chocolate World, according to the lawsuit. The lawsuit accused Hershey of allowing its manufacturing employees to vote on whether or not they should implement a vaccine mandate, and said that the department never implemented one due to overwhelmingly low support among employees. On March 4th, 2022, after firing Malavik and Stoffel, but before firing Gerdock, the Hershey Company updated vaccine policy to allow unvaccinated employees to enter its offices if they met certain accommodations. The company did not offer this as an option to Malavik, Stoffel, or Gerdock. Malavik of Ponte Verde, Florida, joined the company as a corporate meeting planner in 2013 and was later promoted to senior sourcing specialist for marketing before being fired in 2022. Malavik argued that her body is a temple of the Holy Spirit and that the Bible directs her to guard what she places in her body as a way to glorify God. She also said she believes the human body has a natural immune system. Thank you, and that she believes the Bible directs her to avoid knowingly receiving foreign toxins, harmful or unknown effects. Uh, and it just right on point. There's so many, you know, things that happen over there that, me and a lot of you who are, listening to this podcast, uh, stood against. And I'm sure many people listening called Hershey's, or they knew about this, and they just went and boycotted. They said we're not gonna buy Hershey's anymore, and an American company like Hershey's that people grew up on, and I'm not saying that they have the best, healthy ingredients by any means. I'm just saying that we grew up on them, and maybe somebody wants to splurge every once in a while and have a chocolate or whatever, candy, whatever, and now so many people, say no to Hershey's. So that's what it takes. And here's another company. There was uh Siete Foods did like natural, organic, chips. They do salsa, they do tortillas, you name it. Well, they were bought out by Pepsi. This was in early 2025. PepsiCo finalizes 1.2 billion purchase of Austin-based Siete Foods. It was announced in October that the popular Austin-based Mexican-American food brand would be acquired by the multinational giant. And what was so great about Siete is they do not use seed oils in their, you know, chips, their tortillas. They have clean ingredients, or they, you know, did, so to speak. And they were bought out by Pepsi. And the reason why these major corporations buy these companies out is, because they're going to change the ingredients. They're not going to put the right ingredients. More than likely, they're going to, make them so that they're unhealthy, because these companies do not want to produce healthy products. They're not in that game. They're in the game with Monsanto, with, Big Pharma, and Monsanto's bare now. But they're in with the GMOs. They're in with the, pharmaceutical companies, you name it. Anyways, let's continue to read on the article. PepsiCo has finalized a $1.2 billion purchase of Siete Foods, a Mexican-American brand that sells chips, tortillas, and sauces, among other things. The deal was officially finalized on January 17th, 2025. And, when you look at it, I see uh, uh, why the family bought it out. The family accepted the deal. I mean, it was a huge deal for them, but it's no longer going to be, the family business. It's going to be completely run differently because Pepsi owns it. PepsiCo believes in the spirit of authenticity of the Siete brand, and we're excited to carry the legacy created by the Garza family. PepsiCo chairman and CEO Ramon LaGuarta said in October when the acquisition was first announced, "We look forward to expanding our multicultural portfolio with these incredible products and even more consumers discovering and enjoying Siete." Well, now there's a lot of consumers that, are weary of Siete. They're not buying them. They're checking the ingredients left and right. Uh, and these companies like Pepsi, who owns Frito-Lay, and that's why they bought too, is they'll put these, things out in the press. We love the Siete brand for the same reason so many loyal consumers do, and are dedicated to preserving its special attributes while making the brand more widely available and accessible on a broader scale. CEO of PepsiCo North America, Stephen Williams, said in a statement. Uh, but that's just not the case. That's not why they buy it. They buy it because they can, buy these companies. And the same thing happened with like Cascadian Farms and other, originally decent, smaller companies. These companies, these major corporations buy them out, and then they just completely destroy the brand, meaning no longer healthy. They add ingredients that, the people who are into health just don't want, you know? So, one way to stand against this is to find another brand to buy, and continually check your ingredients to see, what is going on. There's actually a video on this, and I'm gonna pull up right here.
Siete changed the ingredients, and I was at the store and noticed this. The ingredients used to be just cassava flour, but now it's a cassava blend and they added cassava starch. You're probably wondering, isn't that the same thing? But cassava flour and cassava starch is actually different. Cassava flour is made by grinding the whole cassava root, while cassava starch is extracted from the root's pulp, resulting in purely starch. This is a very small change, but what I wanted to bring attention is that because PepsiCo did buy them out, we may see more changes in the future, not just with this brand, but with other brands. So keep your eyes peeled.
And here's another one that did a week ago, and they were working with, lo and behold, RFK Jr. PepsiCo to rebrand Lay's Tostitos without artificial dyes flavors. July 17th, PepsiCo is planning to highlight what will no longer be in its potato or tortilla chips, artificial colors or flavors when it relaunches the Lay's and Tostitos brands later this year, executives said on Thursday. The overhaul for the company's top-selling snack brands comes as U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. pushes Americans to eat whole foods and pressures manufacturers to ditch dyes. Isn't it funny how he's, pushing to get rid of these dyes, but, no mention of let's get rid of GMOs, let's, make them organic, no, let's get rid of seed oils. Come on. I mean, this is laughable. Uh, you know, you just, this is, it's not making them, you know, uh, healthier. When you look at their ingredients list, somebody who's into health, no, they're not gonna want to buy Lay's. They're not gonna want to buy Doritos. They're not gonna want to buy Fritos. You name it, So it's insane, And speaking of, you know, the cola companies, check this out right here.
$1 billion AI contract with Coca-Cola. A recent study has shown that Coca-Cola and Pepsi have been shown to have nanoparticles in them. The study also said that these nanoparticles have the ability to cross the blood-brain barrier. My question is, what part of making a beverage like Coca-Cola or Pepsi requires an ingredient like a nanoparticle that can actually get into your brain? And why is the
Exactly.
timing aligned with the need for a $1 billion AI project? What could go wrong here?
Exactly. And then you had recently, I think it was last week or something, you know, uh Trump said, "Oh, I'm working with Coca-Cola has agreed to go back to cane sugar and get rid of high fructose corn syrup." And so this comes out right afterwards. Coca-Cola isn't so sure they're giving out fructose for cane sugar. We appreciate Trump's enthusiasm for our product. Uh, it's likely that Trump was lying or overstating what he does at every press conference and speech. He also blamed Joe Biden for hiring Jerome Powell when it was okay. Who cares about that stuff? Coca-Cola issued a classic response to the Trump claim. We appreciate President Trump's enthusiasm for our iconic Coca-Cola brand, the company's spokesperson said in a statement. More details on new innovative offerings with our Coca-Cola product range will be shared soon. In other words, pay no attention to the fat man in the blue suit. Anyways, of course they're not going to get rid of high fructose corn syrup. They've been doing that, for several years. I want to say since like 1980 or around there. Might have even been before that, and all the companies are doing that, so you can, either choose not to drink sodas, find alternatives, maybe cane sugar, you name it. But the bottom line is we have a choice to, stand against these corporations, to not buy products from these corporations, to find, smaller companies that align, and not just with food, but with everything. If it's a company that, stands for something or that is supporting something that you don't support, stand against it. They do an advertising campaign that you don't like, don't buy their product. It's as simple as that. That is what it takes. We all have the power and the ability to decide what we spend our money on. So let's take that power and support the companies that are standing for humanity, standing for, health, standing for what's right, that actually care about, their people, that actually care about the people. and do what's right. Much love to everyone who, is taking a stand, standing for humanity, standing, for what they believe in, because that is what it takes. And you will see change in our society, you'll see change in our world, and we have the power to change others for the better and make this world a better place. Uh, Take care. Have a great week.